In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear parking brake shoes on this Lincoln Navigator. You'll locate these behind each of your rear wheels. The process will be the same for either side of the vehicle. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. The first thing that we need to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheels are off the ground. Once you've done that, continue on to removing your center cover. We'll do that using a pry bar. Carefully get in between this area and pop this out of place. A quick inspection, set it aside. Once you have that done, continue on to your 5 21mm lug nuts and then remove the wheel. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is remove our caliper from the area. To easily remove this, use a small pry bar and push back your caliper piston. Once you have a little bit of movement coming from there, continue on to your 2 10mm headed mounting bolts that hold the caliper to the backside of the differential. Inspect your hardware as you remove it, replace it as necessary. Now we can continue on by taking hold of the caliper and we'll pull it off diagonally, starting from the top, and then we can lift it up and away along the bottom as well. With that off of there, give the brakes a quick inspection. Make sure it doesn't look like the pads are worn in an odd way or damaged. After that, just have a quick peek at the rotor. We'll set this aside. Continue on to removing your brake rotor. Quick inspection of both sides and set that aside. Now that we have that out of the way, we have a nice clear view of our parking brake shoes. Before we start pulling them off of here, have a close look at the hardware and at the backing plate. If any of it looks like it has to be replaced, now's a perfect time to do it. We'll start by removing our lower spring. You can do this using some long nose pliers. Grab onto the edge of the spring and pull it to the hole in the shoe. Now we can start removing our anchor pins and clips. For this, we'll continue on using a small pry bar and those long nose pliers. Carefully press in on the locking clip. While you have that pressed in, use your locking pliers to grab onto the tip of the pin and turn it to the open position. At this point, we'll release pressure. Remove that locking clip, give it a quick inspection. With that out of the way, continue on to pushing the pin out and through the backside of the backing plate. Quick inspection of that pin and set it aside. Now we'll do the same to the other anchor pin and locking clip. With both of those out of there, we'll continue on to removing the adjuster down along the bottom. This can easily be done by grabbing onto one of the parking brake shoes and slowly separating it. After that, you can remove the adjuster. All right, grab onto both of those shoes and remove them from the vehicle. Let's get that last spring off of here. There it is, friends. Let's continue on with a wire brush. We're going to clean up the backing plate. You'll find that you have several areas that protrude outward a little bit. They're raised. That's where the parking brake shoes are going to sit against. You want to make sure there's no debris in these areas. Let's make our way up here to the parking brake actuator. You can grab onto this piece and lift it up and off of the lever. Once you've done that, it's a good idea to make sure you clean and inspect the pivot point here. I'll wipe this off. It's common to find a lot of rust in this area. If that's the case, you want to make sure that you sand it down and re-lubricate it. Once you have this area done, do the same to the rest of the lever where this connects onto. Once you have that cleaned up, go ahead and add some high temperature lubricant. We'll put this into place. The next thing you'll want to do is take apart your parking brake adjuster. Once you have that taken apart, continue on by cleaning up the threads. Now we can prepare the adjuster. We'll use a little bit of lubricant on the threading. That'll help prevent rust. Take the adjuster and put it back together. We'll screw this all the way up towards the tip. Set this aside. Let's clean up the mating surface on the end of the axle. For this, we'll use parts cleaner and a wire brush. Make sure it's a smooth mating surface. Continue with some high temperature caliper lubricant. We'll come in along each side of this bracket. On the backing plate, you'll find that you have several areas that protrude outward a little bit. Those are the areas that you need to lubricate. Now it's time to install our parking brake shoes and hardware. Let's put this into place along the top hole. Do the same on the other shoe. Now we can take these shoes and start putting them in place. Now we'll continue on with one of our anchor pins and the mounting clip. Looking at the clip, you can see that you have a slotted hole and a round hole. The round hole goes up against the shoe, and as you have it like that, we'll continue on by putting this through the backing plate, straight through the shoe, and then make its way to the clip. Once you've done that, we'll have to continue on by making sure that we have this in this position so that the pin is held to the clip. While pressing in on this clip, we're going to grab onto the pin, twist it until it's in the locked position. All right, now we can move along to installing our adjuster. You'll find on each side of the adjuster you have a small slot where each shoe should sit. You also want to pay attention to the cog area here. Make sure that that's facing towards the rear. If you put it in this way, you won't be able to adjust the shoes properly. We'll take this and put it into position in the slot on each of the lower part of the shoes. Now we can install that spring. Double check to make sure the adjuster is seated properly. Now we can put in the other pin and locking clip. Make sure that one's locked in position as well. Continue on to some copper never-sees along the mating surface of the axle where your rotor is going to sit. Over a collection bucket, let's make sure we clean the mating surface on the back side of our rear rotor. We'll just wipe down that braking surface as well. Do the same on both sides. Let's take that brake rotor and put it in place. Now let's have a look from the back side of the backing plate. Looking through this slot, you can see the adjuster cog. To make an adjustment, you can use a small pry bar or flat screwdriver. Carefully make your way in between here and gently pry up against the backing plate and the cog, turning the cog in whichever direction you need to go to adjust the shoes. To adjust the shoes out closer to the drum, you're going to want to turn that cog up. So we would take this and come right in here and just keep going up. To bring the shoes back in or to de-adjust them, you would come in up along the top of the cog and turn it downward. Now that's important to note because you're going to have to take the rotor and try to spin it a little bit. We're going to adjust these out until you get no movement from the rotor. Basically, the parking brake shoes will be squeezing up against the rotor, holding it in place. Once you've done that, de-adjust them until you can get a little bit of movement from that rotor. Now right there, it's adjusted to the point that I cannot turn the rotor. At this point, I'm going to de-adjust this until I can get a little bit of movement from this. Come up along the top and gently turn it back. There we are. Let's take our protective cover and slide it into position. Continue on to your brake caliper. We'll take this and slide it in position over the rotor, making sure that we bring the bottom side in first and then rolling the top into position as well. Install both of your caliper slider bolts, snug them up, torque them to 20 foot-pounds. Now we can reinstall our wheel. Start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and bottom them out. Once you have that done, put your wheel back safely on the ground. Torque each of your lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a center cover, put that on now. Looking at the back, you can tell that you have 5 holes that need to line up. Line it up, knock it in. Okay friends, we've got the vehicle back together. At this point, go ahead and hop inside of it. Actuate your emergency brake and make sure that it functions properly. Aside from that, take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.